tech market, no one wants to be the second best, whether it comes to graphics cards or CPUs or RAM. The thing that matters is price to performance and the applications you use. And with the long lead time of product development, sliding into the silicon sector is challenging. As much as it seems that Intel failed, I disagree with this, and instead see Intel as the leader of the budget brigade of product development, making our GPUs cheaper and faster and better for all. So let's find out why on today's episode of JZ Tech. The first modern time we saw an Intel GPU in the wild was on May 14, 2018 in a Linus Tech Tips video titled, "We Got Intel's Prototype Graphics Card!" Now, Intel has made forays into the GPU market before with Project Larrabee, but that long-term labyrinth happened to be too lengthy a time for large looming shareholders to have, and thus Larrabee lived a short life. The video mentioned above seemed to suggest that there was a new GPU in town, but there wasn't. Not for a long time. Intel's press release for Intel Arc on August 16, 2021 brought dread to some and joy to many, where they publicly announced for the first time the Intel Xe HPG microarchitecture for the Arc Alchemist family. And this time, Intel was committed when they also revealed the codenames Battlemage, Celestial, and Druid, which displays that this is not a half-hearted attempt at a GPU. They also revealed their product naming strategy, starting with the Intel A, or B, or C, or D, and that's the generation, unlike the way that AMD and NVIDIA does it, where the first number in the product name, 6,000, 5,000, or 30, or 20, displays which generation it is, and then the other three numbers in the product development, in the naming, display which model it is. So is it like the A780, the world's fastest Intel GPU, or the A380, the budget-focused one? But nevertheless, the thing that they have is their own implementation of DLSS, RTX, and AV1 encoding in the form of Intel QuickSync. Let me show you some examples of why this is important. When streaming your video game, what do you want? Is a smooth experience. Maybe you want to play 8K, but don't want your GPU to catch on fire. Or you just want to play at 500 frames per second gaming without a fast GPU. So what XeSS does is render the game at a lower resolution, then use AI to upscale it, and allowing you to get to increase the detail without increasing the rendering resolution and crippling the performance. Intel GPUs also support ray tracing, allowing you to play more realistic games in the long term, and AV1 Media Engine allows you streaming to be less taxing on the GPU and CPU and allow you to get higher FPS. If you're a video editor, allow you to tear through your A7S3 footage without any hiccups. In fact, the major selling point of Arc is its rendering capabilities for content creators. Now, when will it launch? Early 2022. Well, last time I checked on my clock, early 2022 has come and gone and is very well gone by now. So you still can't get an Arc GPU outside of the laughable A380 and the M series for laptops. No higher power Arc chips, and I think I know why. Part 1. Partners. You see, a GPU company needs add-in board manufacturers like ASUS, Gigabyte, EVGA, and Sapphire to build the actual cards. As much as they design the chips, it doesn't do you much good if you don't have boards and coolers to put them into. And if you try doing their job, you can look at where 3DFX is today, non-existent, and make sure that you do not repeat their mistakes. Since Intel needs these add-in board partners, these manufacturers have strong negotiating power. And the thing is that Intel Arc is a risk for every single person in the chain. It's bad for Intel if Arc doesn't sell because they've wasted a bunch of money on development and that basically has gone into the garbage. It's bad for add-in board manufacturers because if this launch is delayed, they are sitting on a pile of stock that they can't sell, and it's bad for consumers because if they're going to be shipped buggy cards with poop drivers that don't work, you're not going to have a very fun experience. Now we also have production. When Intel was planning Arc, they could have released a potato GPU and it would still have sold through. So made numerous amount of GPUs to make sure they could keep up with the demand. But there was another bottleneck in the drivers preventing the sale. So they're sitting on a bunch of stock that they can't sell until they get the drivers done. And the Alchemist cards need good drivers so that they can work to their full potential, and bad drivers will make that very difficult. Drivers are the thing that allows your operating system to interact with the graphics card. Bad drivers will give you a buggy experience, and it will make your games run slower, hotter, and deadlier. At least when it comes to the global warming that your GPU will now be putting out. And part 4, partners. Why make a consumer GPU when you can make enterprise one for double the price? Quadros, or as NVIDIA usually calls them, A-series GPUs, have a massive markup for what is ultimately the same chip, and all there is some malation and some more VRAM. Let's compare these two GPUs, the 3090 Ti and the NVIDIA A6000. CUDA cores, identical. GPU bus width, identical. Processing chip, identical. Texture mapping units, identical. ROMs, identical. Processor, die size, transistors, identical. The A6000 is worse on bandwidth, clock speed, and gaming performance. The only thing it's better at is in VRAM size and drivers. All for double the price. Now, this may seem like a scam, but the A6000 is a good deal. This is why the consumer market is not a good idea for Intel to be getting into. Making double the money for 10% the cost seems like a fever dream, and it's incredible. So the Arc Alchemist GPUs have seemed to come under fire by shareholders. The latte-sipping rich class who only care about short-term profit and not about long-term livability so that the company doesn't die. But the drivers are bad, and any non-DirectX 12 games are garbage and useless, and will exhibit up to half the FPS when moving from 12 to 11. And there are no native DirectX 9 support, making TF2 have to run an emulation. Although, if you're getting a new GPU to play Team Fortress 2, I seriously question your decisions. So, unless if your game supports DirectX 12 or Vulkan, you'll have a pretty bad time. Intel still hasn't released these cards until they have fixed the driver woes, and this is costing them and the AIB partners lots of money. The upside is to Intel's focus is the cards are editing dream machines with incredible AV1 encoding and decoding capabilities. So for video editors like me, these GPUs are great, and I think that you should wait for them. This is because when supply goes up, prices go down, and you have more choice. So if you can wait, you could potentially snag an even better deal than what's available on the current market. That being said, I hope Battlemage is a reboot for the program, and Windows Update doesn't. Just kidding. Have a great day, have a great week. I'm Zeph, this is JZ Tech, and goodbye.